Hey guys, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that we're starting a new push for subscriptions here on Human Events Daily. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you hit subscribe, you download it, and you share it with 5 of your friends. Make sure they're all going and downloading as well, because we need to get the signal out as much as possible. Look, we've done so much over the past couple of years since this show started, and we're only going to do so much more. Let's get it. This is what happens when the fourth turning meets fifth generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
Everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
He is a voice of reason out there that has been gunned down for daring to be an American, to tell the truth, to believe in free speech.
My husband laid down his life for me, for our nation, for our children.
When America needed a hero, God sent us a Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk is a casualty of the political war going on in this country. He was gunned down in cold blood.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done.
With a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody.
U.S. media are now reporting that the suspect is 22-year-old Tyler Robinson.
The man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk was living with a transgender partner.
It was a family member and a family friend who helped deliver Tyler Robinson to law enforcement in Washington County.
Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" Catch!
He believed strongly that we could solve a lot of our differences with just a good old-fashioned conversation.
He was shot for speaking the truth. He was shot for speaking his mind. He was shot for defending the Constitution.
He didn't hate people. He didn't even hate liberals. He just hated intolerance.
He was fighting not just for his own young children, but for all of our children.
Never, ever stop fighting, no matter what.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
Did he spend the night in the apartment the night of September 9th into September 10th?
Into September 10th. Yeah, he did. Yes.
Do you know when he left the apartment on September 10th?
I don't know an exact time. I just know he left early. I heard him leaving, and he just said he had a long drive to work that day, so he was leaving early. And he asked me for if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was, and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house.
And I want to point out to the court, Ms. Kirk has been very adept at holding press conferences at which she has revealed evidence. She has represented that the state is her attorney. She has access to all the evidence that the state has publicized and that the media and her own lawyer argues is already in the public domain.
What are we looking at here in Exhibit 19?
This is the cartridge case that was recovered from the gun.
And what position was this in the gun?
This was this is what was in the chamber.
Okay. In the chamber, meaning that's where a cartridge is before when it is fired, correct?
Yes.
Do you notice an inscription or an etching on this cartridge case?
Yes, I do.
Will you read what that says?
Yes. Notices bulge.
And if we can go down to page 2 of the exhibit, will you read what this says?
OWO, what's?
And to page 3.
This.
Trace, just more details coming from inside the courtroom from our digital reporter. When they got to the point discussing the rifle that was used, Tyler Robinson was squirming, apparently uncomfortable, swinging in his chair, scratching his nose. He looked uncomfortable with the texts that were being discussed. Also, Erica Kirk was looking down, leaning forward, not looking at the screen showing those texts. Our reporter also said Erica was audibly crying throughout the proceeding today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Today's edition of Human Events Daily. We're here live in Provo, Utah. Just got out of the courthouse. Today is July 9th, 2026, Anno Domini. And today we finally got that video. After all these months, Lance Twiggs. And Lance Twiggs' interview, his testimony. He testified under oath that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. He also testified that Tyler Robinson confessed to him multiple times. But then he went and he said, "Why was it, Tyler, that you were etching bullets?" And Tyler said, "I'm going hunting." He said, "I'm going hunting." And then Tyler Robinson took those etched bullets to UVU campus and he went hunting on a college campus, and he shot and killed a good man, a man by the name of Charlie Kirk. And now the world has seen it, and we have that video, that incredible video that everyone needs to look at in court. It was very hard. It was very hard to hear that today. I'm not going to say I'm happy this is out, but it needed to happen, and it has. We'll be right back.
In our way, and our golden age has just begun.
This is Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
Now it's time for everyone to understand what America First truly means.
Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
We're back live here, Human Events. Welcome back to this Human Events special primetime coverage of the Tyler Robinson hearing, live from Provo, Utah. We're covering one of the most high-profile murder trials in the country, in the entire world. And when something like this happens, it's a reminder of just how much personal information is sitting out there online for anyone to find. There are hundreds of data broker websites publishing your name, your home address, and your phone number. There's family members, old addresses, email addresses, and just about everything that's ever been leaked about you online. Unless you take action, it stays there. Someone who knows what they're doing can piece together where you live, where you've lived, where you're related to, who you're related to, and even public property records. If you're politically active, work in the media, attend public events, or simply value your family's privacy, that's not something you want to take lightly. If you don't want strangers finding your information, tracking down your social media accounts, or combining your personal details with information from data breaches, you can do something about it. Patriot Protect helps remove your personal information from these data broker sites before the wrong people get their hands on it. This isn't something you do after you become a target. It's something you do beforehand. Other services tell you after something has already gone wrong. Patriot Protect helps make you much harder to find in the first place. A single phone scam or identity theft incident can cost thousands of dollars. It's a lot less expensive to protect yourself now. Go to patriot-protect.com or call 1-833-367-8787. Use promo code POSO to save 15%. Take control of your privacy. Add some digital camouflage to your life and make yourself much harder to find online. Look, folks, today was a day that the judge did the right thing in releasing the video. In the video of Lance Twiggs, everyone needs to watch this video again and again. And we are going to, I want to tell these guys on the show that we need to be playing this video every day. And certainly we need to be showing it as much as possible whenever we talk about it, because this is the video that breaks the entire thing open. But let me tell you something right now. Right now. Going hunting. He said he was going hunting when he was going after Charlie. Going hunting. I'm sure he thought he was Mr. Cool when he did that, huh? Oh, he figured it all out. I'm going to go hunting. Oh, I'm going to go out there. And we know now because we've seen the Lance Twiggs video. And we're going to show that Lance Twiggs video every single moment that we can. Going hunting. Okay. All right. If that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. I want to bring on now our first guest because I need someone else to be talking right now. We've got Viva Frei from the Viva Frei Show on Viva. How are you? And I look, man, I'm a little hot. I'm a little hot about some of the stuff that came out of court today, especially that Twiggs video.
It's disgusting. I mean, and the bottom line is, Twiggs acknowledges he needed a Dremel to engrave messages on bullets when he was going hunting with his family. And the question I wish McBride had asked was, did you ever see any of the messages on the bullets? Because it's not like it's not a normal thing that you ask for a Dremel tool to engrave messages on bullets when you're going hunting with your family. And he never asked the question. It obviously never got answered because it never got asked. And I suspect that Lance knew exactly what he was engraving on the bullets. I suspect Lance knew exactly what he was planning to do with those bullets. And I suspect the morning after the assassination, after Lance acknowledges that Tyler sent him the automated text the night of, that he knew exactly what had happened. It went, I would arguably say, according to their plan. And the next morning, they were planning how to get Tyler Robinson out of this and away from it. But alas, Lance is not on trial. He may or may not.
Wait, Viva. So hold on. Wait. So Viva, are you saying? And I'm processing what you're saying in real time here. Are you saying that there's a chance, potentially, that Twiggs actually knew about all of this beforehand, and that this auto message and all of these other things were some way to make it look as though he did not have foreknowledge?
I'm biased. My operating theory was that you don't live with someone, know that they're engraving bullets for hunting, that you're involved in online Discord chats with furry whatevers, and not have any inkling as to what is going on. We know that there were people who tweeted out in advance something big is going to happen or something to that effect as relates to the UVU event. I believe, and that's why I might be biased when I listen to Lance Twiggs testify today, that he obviously knew something. They were doing something. Tyler didn't do this out of the blue, unbeknownst to anybody, living in a closed quarter apartment with his lover, who's a furry trans individual, engraving bullets, and nobody said, hey, what's going on? To me, it's a no-brainer. Whether or not Lance thinks he might have scored immunity from his use immunity statement, he may or may not be right. The bottom line, I think other people knew. I think other people were involved. I think other people had advanced foreknowledge. I think that's clear from social media posts. Based on all the evidence right now, do believe that Tyler is the one who pulled the trigger. We now know that it was a soft tip, allegedly Remington 30-06, which is intended to expand on impact, which might explain the absence of an exit wound. Do I believe that Lance Twiggs was caught off guard with any of this? Hells to the bells, no. I believe that other people in the Discord chats knew it was coming. I question why the FBI did or did not investigate that, but that's a separate issue. This is one bad day for everybody who said a 30-06 could never do that unless it's a soft tip. It's a bad day for everybody saying it's not Lance Twiggs in that video when his lover, his mother, identified him. And do I believe that Lance
Tyler
had advanced...
Robinson.
Tyler Robinson, sorry. But do I believe that Lance didn't know anything of what was coming? It was caught off guard? Caught off guard, but you listen to his testimony, it's absolutely incoherent rubbish. He gets a text message the night of, this is 10 hours after Charlie Kirk has been brutally murdered, and says, I didn't see anything about it except for one message in my Instagram account. Bullcrap. Gets a text message from his lover saying, look under my keyboard. Under the keyboard says, I did it. And this guy just goes to bed that night and then wakes up with Tyler in his room the next morning doing chores, trying to keep himself busy. And he asks him, did you actually do this? It's so laughably stupid that Tyler did not let anybody know what he was going to do, and that Lance had no idea what he was going to do. He got the message the night of, and then spent the night without Tyler coming back to the apartment, and then pretends to be shocked the next morning. I mean, the bottom line, there's a lot of rage going on here in terms of who else was involved and who else was investigated thoroughly. But as far as a probable cause hearing goes, Tyler is dead to rights. He goes to trial and he probably gets convicted. The only thing that might be surmised out of all of this is that the defense went with this strategy of a 5-day long preliminary hearing so they could beg the prosecution to take the death penalty off the table and just sentence him to life. Maybe.
Well, Viva, let me just add one thing, because you put a lot in there, and I want to make sure people understand what we're all talking about. That this is the video that was played in court, and we're working on getting a clip of that. But to your point about, it seems like there are pieces of the puzzle that are missing. One of the biggest ones for me was when they asked him the question, did you guys, the two of you who were in an LGBT, in a gay relationship, and he said, did you ever talk about LGBT issues? And he said, no. I mean, I'm sorry, that just doesn't pass the smell test, especially with a guy when his next letter, with the handwritten letter is some hate can't be negotiated out, and he climbs on a roof and is willing to take a shot at Charlie Kirk, and you never even discussed the issue? No, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm just not buying that. That's not good enough. It doesn't pass the smell test. There are too many discrepancies on that. That just the idea that you had not even discussion about this, and they said, oh, he talked about politics and mostly talked about Trump. Sure, I get that, but no, it doesn't track. And look, I know that we're at the probable cause and stage of all of this, and the judge brings that up over and over. But when this thing goes to trial, and I do certainly pray that it does, these are going to be things that I would not like to leave unturned.
Well,
1 minute to Viva Fry, then we have a break.
Okay. Yeah, well, the problem with this is that they're going to get to trial without a shadow of a doubt. The only issue is these are questions that implicate others who, as of now, have not yet been implicated. And remember, his answer was very specific. I don't recall discussing Charlie Kirk specifically. Lance Twiggs, all of his video recorded testimony was covering his own ass and trying to get himself out of this situation. There's zero chance they did not discuss politics, but there's also even more zero chance that he had no advanced knowledge of what was going on. You don't engrave bullets when you go on a
some of
hunting
this trip. No, unless it's a very different kind of hunting trip. Right back, Jack Posobiec, Viva Fry, Human Events Primetime.
These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec, where's Jack? Jack, who's done a great job.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family, and he asked me if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets, and I just told him where our Dremel was, and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
How long before September 10th was this that he asked about the Dremel?
I don't remember, because he'd been talking about the hunting/camping trip for a couple months. but I don't remember when he was specifically asking to engrave the bullets. So
are we talking like a year before?
Oh no, not that long. It would have been, I'd say, at most a month before this was when he was asking.
Okay.
Live Human Events Daily. And look, before we dive into the evidence, and Viva and myself, look, we want to analyze all this and opine on it. I have, number one, I need to say thank you to our great friends and partners over at Allegiance Gold, because a day like today does not come after a long, hard fight. And those who stand in the fight with you are worthy of your support and continued support. And that's Allegiance Gold, because they've stepped up to provide our security, the team security here while we're in Provo, Utah. And please just go to protectwithposto.com and give them the support that they've shown us. But Viva, let's zoom out a little bit here, because here you and I, of course, we want to analyze the evidence. But my goodness, the avalanche of evidence that came out today is just it's incredible. It is, we not only the video, we got the ballistics. We've now confirmed that it was the soft point hunting round from Remington, as many people have questioned and asked about. We've now got that confirmation as to the specific round that that was used by Tyler Robinson. We've got the direct DNA match to the rifle itself. Talk to me a little bit about the avalanche of new evidence we have, in addition, by the way, of course, to now the bombshell testimony of the significant other of the suspect, which is, again, something that's just unprecedented.
So just going to remind everybody, this is the preliminary hearing. So it is an avalanche of evidence in the context of a preliminary hearing, which is not beyond a reasonable doubt, but rather probable cause. And so hearsay evidence is admissible, whether you like it or not. It's just the rules of procedure. You don't get to cross-examine a witness, because otherwise the admissibility of hearsay would become academic if you had the automatic right to cross-examine the witness. So it's a lower standard. But there have been people saying from the get-go, on the one hand, the laughably insane theory, it was never a bullet, it was an exploding lapel mic. Now you have the testimony that it was a fragmented bullet, a Remington soft tip bullet. Remember when everyone was saying a 30-06 never behaves like that. A 30-06 always would go through anybody's body, with the exception of Martin Luther King, save a complicated trajectory in Martin Luther King. But, then people don't believe the official narrative for Martin Luther King either. Now we understand it's a soft tip bullet, which is intended to expand on impact, which would explain the increased probability of the absence of an exit wound. And then you have Lance Twiggs, Tyler Robinson's furry trans lover, who the defense was fighting tooth and nail to not allow this video evidence as admissible, because they wanted to cross-examine Lance on the video testimony, which would otherwise qualify as hearsay, which is admissible at a stage of preliminary hearing for probable cause. It's an avalanche in the sense that we now have confirmation it was a bullet. The nature of the bullet, which might account for why some people are saying 30-06 always leaves an exit wound, not if it's intended to expand on impact to limit the possibility of an exit wound, as in the soft tip Remington bullet. And then you have Lance Twiggs saying he engraved the bullets. He asked me to engrave the bullets. I didn't ask him why he was engraving bullets for a hunting trip. I believe Lance is involved, but set that aside. Then the night of September 10, I get an automated text saying, check under my keyboard. Then Lance, on video, under oath, penalty of perjury, because that matters to some people sometimes, says, I picked up the message and it was a written note saying that whole lengthy, nonsense, insane explanation for why he had to do it. Then he goes to bed, and then his lover doesn't come home that night. And then his lover comes home the next day and says, did you really do it? And while, Tyler is like doing things around the house to distract himself, it's an avalanche. And if you view it as Lance Twiggs saying what he needs to say to incriminate his lover and exonerate himself, which I'm sure was the plan all along. I don't think Tyler Robinson wanted to incriminate Lance in all of this. It makes a whole hell of a lot more sense what Lance testified to today. But the bottom line, the testimony itself was damning on the one hand and laughably stupid when it comes to, I had no idea what he was doing. He just asked me to engrave some bullets for a hunting trip. So I told him where the Dremel tool was because, we're drug addicts playing games all day long.
And by the way, and Viva, I have to say, right, it's ridiculous, but also the fact that what is on these, hey, fascist, catch, and then, oh, Bella Ciao. Bella Ciao is the anthem of Antifa. This is not some random reference, and it's certainly not a reference to a video game. It is the anthem of Antifa, since it's a World War II communist song that if you are in the leftist community, you are very familiar with. If you are outside of that community, you might ask, what is that? Why is he writing Oh Bella Ciao? So again, these are specific in-group references that are being placed here. Not only are they politically political in nature, they are violent and revolutionary inherently in nature.
No, but there's no question about that. And as if someone says, I'm going hunting, I'd like the Dremel tool to engrave messages on the bullets for a deer. All right, dude, that makes as much sense as when a child tries to lie to an adult and an adult says, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Do you think I'm stupid? So, he's also engraving, like you say, messages that only make sense within a small Discord group of individuals who are heavily involved in gaming or other, trans furry-minded activities. So the problem is, I don't deny and I don't doubt that by the evidence that we've seen before us that Tyler took the shot, and I've never been one to say a 30-06 always necessarily without exception leaves an exit to it. If there's an exception to it, then you've admitted of the possibility. Now I feel affirmed in my beliefs that Lance Twiggs knew what was going on. Others involved knew what was going on, at least knew what was being planned. They turned a blind eye to it. And then the next day, they turned an active eye to concealing and allowing, or at least trying to abet in the escape of the man who admitted he did it 12 hours earlier, comes back, and then they say, how can we help you get out of this mess, my love? That's what was going on. How Lance has not been charged is beyond me, but alas, I'm not prosecuting this. I appreciate it's a use immunity, meaning only for the statement, and if they can prove a crime by other means, he can still be charged for that. But this confirms basically what a lot of us were saying from the beginning. Lance was in on it. Other people knew what was going on. Tyler, in all likelihood, took the shot, succeeded in the shot, and then had people trying to cover up and allowing him to escape the next day. How George Zinn, that old pervert who was then arrested for and pleaded guilty to child sex abuse material on his phone, said, I was there to distract and allow the gunman to escape. And I'm going to believe that that's a coincidence. I'm sorry. Never in a million years does that coincidence happen, that an old pervert who then gets convicted for and pleads guilty to child sex abuse material on his phone says, I was there to distract and allow the government to shoot.
Something quite more, but we'll have to leave it there because, again, that's what the prosecution is focused on here with Tyler Robinson. But yes, many more questions that we hope come out at trial. Viva Fry, where can people go to follow you, brother?
Viva Fry on Twitter, Viva Fry on Rumble, and if you saw me looking to the side, it's only because I have a misbehaving dog. So no, I'm not under duress, people, but I have a dog who's fighting with another dog. Viva Fry, Google Viva Fry, you'll find me.
You'll find him. Make sure you go check him out, folks. Incredible analysis, as always. Right back. Human Events, primetime.
Ever stop fighting, no matter what. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
All right, folks, we're back with Human Events special primetime coverage of the Tyler Robinson hearing. We're live from Provo, Utah. These are long days. We're at the courthouse from early in the morning until late in the afternoon, then the evening, and it's right back to the studio, get this show on the air. We're doing other shows. And weeks like this remind us pretty quickly that good sleep is not a luxury. It's part of the job. If you're waking up hot, if you're throwing the covers off in the middle of the night, or you're just not getting the rest you need, your mattress could be the problem. That's one of the reasons that I switched to Ghost Bed. Built-in cooling technology on every mattress, no expensive upgrades. Designed for hot sleepers who want to stay cool all night. Great support, less stiffness, and better sleep, especially when you have long days ahead. Share your experience with Ghost Bed, what model you have, or how your sleep has improved. That's one thing that we're asking people to do around here as you come in with your emails. And let me tell you something, I've had such a great time with mine. I miss it so much right now that I'm out of home. And Ghost Bed gives you 101 nights to try it in your own home. You don't have to decide after one night. You can actually sleep on it and see the difference for yourself. And even though we're past the 4th of July, the 4th of July sale is still on. And the Human Events audience gets an extra 10% off with promo code POSO. With financing, some Ghost Beds work out to around $1 a day. So visit ghostbed.com/POSO and use promo code POSO. Now we're here, day 4, the preliminary hearing in the homicide of Charlie Kirk. And I would say that today, the dam broke. Will Chamberlain from the Article 3 Project has been with us from the very start of not just this trial, but also this just very start of all of this, almost coming up on the 1 year. It's 10 months tomorrow, and then the 1 year will be in 2 months. Will Chamberlain, how are you?
I'm great, Jack. Good to be with you.
Will, would you agree that today it really feels like the dam broke in terms of just this, again, I've called it an avalanche of evidence?
Yeah, I think I actually ended up being kind of surprised that the Twigs video got played publicly. I thought, I was of the opinion when I thought about it that because that video wouldn't ultimately be admissible as evidence, the judge would be willing to look at it himself, but he wouldn't be willing to show it to the public at large, kind of worrying potentially about issues at voir dire, people having already come in, having seen it admissible evidence. But the judge decided to admit it, and it's unbelievably damning. I think the Twigs interview, it demonstrates so many different things, corroborates so many facts, lays the foundation for the confession note, and the confession texts. And I found it completely damning. He has the timeline that matches perfectly with what Robinson did, that he woke up very early in the morning and then, goes through the entire detail, right? And that's, again, people are like, oh, those text messages are fake. And it's like, no, here's a picture of Twigs holding the phone and you taking a picture of the underlying text messages. Like this is real. It's just an overwhelming amount of evidence. Most murder trials do not have 4 distinct confessions. It's just not very common. And so I think those who doubted Tyler Robinson was the shooter, if they didn't have a bad day yesterday, they had the worst day of the week today.
Well, and Will, you mentioned it. I've got my notepad from being in court today, but one of the things you mentioned about in terms of corroboration that struck my mind is that we did get new text messages as well, or I should say, the references to the text messages that were made in the video through Twigs. And there was something that he said. So they're having that discussion about going back to that moment where Tyler Robinson was trying to retrieve the gun from what he called the drop site, this place in the woods. And apparently over one of the new text messages, Twigs reads it out and it says that Tyler said, "These crickets are so loud." Well, if you go back in time to the new video that came out of Tyler Robinson's Dodge Charger pulling up in front of that home in the middle of the night, what do you hear on the video very loudly? You hear very loud crickets. And so it's just one of those things where, in the grand scheme of things, you say it's a cricket. But hold on a second, because now we've got specific independent corroboration of something that was in these text messages to a video that came from a Nest camera system that presumably that Tyler Robinson and Lance Twigs had no access to whatsoever. So again, it's just those little details that solidify the case so much.
Yeah. And I think that's been the story. It's really amazing that you're seeing so much of this, not at trial, but in a preliminary hearing. It's just an overwhelming amount of these small little details. The details about the ballistics, right? The fact that the bullet that's he was using was actually the type of bullet that was designed to mushroom. I mean, remember the core theory, the core fact that basically every conspiracy theorist is hanging their hat on, core fact, I should put that in air quotes, was the idea that a 30-06 should have left an exit wound. Well, what happens if the bullet was meant to mushroom inside once it hits, right? What does that mean? And I mean, of course, that actually makes sense because that increases the lethality of the bullet. So, I mean, and if that fact is gone, the whole idea of, where's the exit wound? If that's gone, what's left? I mean, it's sort of obvious that there's just this overwhelming pile of evidence pointing to Tyler Robinson. They're relying on this one, what they say is an impossibility. It's just not. I actually had a lengthy discussion on Jeremy Boring's show yesterday with a ballistics expert who talked about he knows of 4 shootings off the top of his head, both prominent people like Martin Luther King, but also fellow Green Berets who have been shot by a 30-06 and not had an exit wound.
Well, look, it's in the soft community, there's this phrase, bullets do weird things, and it's sort of a catch-all phrase that. Even if you know the ballistics, even if you know the physics, you just don't know what's going to happen in the field. And in fact, the ballistics expert from the ATF testified to that today when she said, look, we use a water tank to fire these bullets into because we need to preserve it because of the amount of damage that happens to a bullet when it is fired in a normal in a normal setting. That's why they go to such lengths to try to preserve the bullets, because so much can happen to them, which of course could preclude testing, which in fact is what she has stated. That is what happened in this case. Jack Posobiec are on with Will Chamberlain. Human Events, Primetime, Day 4, the hearing of Tyler Robinson.
Never stop fighting, no matter what. We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we're back live here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. I want to talk a little bit now about the many confessions of Tyler Robinson. And if you saw the afternoon show today, I referenced this. Will Chamberlain is our guest from the Article 3 Project. Will, now, look, I understand that there are questions about the admissibility of a number of these confessions. But what was interesting is that, so you have the confession on Discord, you have the confession on text message, you have the confession to Lance Twiggs in the note, you have the confession to Lance Twiggs over the over text message. We now have the confession of Tyler Robinson to his parents. You have the confession of Tyler Robinson to his parents' neighbor. We don't know exactly what he said to police, so I'm not going to call that one. But we also have now information about yet another confession of Tyler Robinson when he confessed, because we now know that there was a meeting that Lance Twiggs had in person with Tyler Robinson in their home on September 11th, the day after the shooting. And so, Will, I get, and the judge ruled today, of course, that because these were not made in a law enforcement setting, that's why it was admitted. We don't know if this will be shown before a jury, but talk to us about what can be done with this, the many confessions of Tyler Robinson.
Oh, I mean, these confessions, I think, are all going to be admitted. They are hearsay in the sense that, it is the statement of an out-of-court statement being brought for the truth of for its truth value, but they fit into like a bazillion different hearsay exceptions, statements of the statements of the involved party, statements against interest, excited utterances. So these are all going to come in, I'm pretty sure. The only thing that might not, what's not going to come in is this video, right? The key thing to understand is this video is hearsay, but it also, bringing it forward, given that Lance Twiggs is alive and well, would violate the Confrontation Clause. You have a constitutional right to confront your accusers. So he will have to actually testify and subject himself to cross-examination. But the actual substantive confessions would include that note.
Wait, so no. Yeah. Well, wait, Will. So hold on a second. So this would be, you're right. The video will not be entered because Lance Twiggs himself will be entered. We'll have something that's far beyond an actual, just a video. We are going to have Lance Twiggs in person, and I'm certainly sure that whatever use immunity agreement required his presence at any and all court proceedings. And so that's the reason. So when you say that, I just want to make sure people understand this. When you say the video won't be entered, that's because Lance Twiggs himself will be there. And by the way, we also expect that one or both of Tyler Robinson's parents will also testify against him at this trial.
Yes, that's right. Right. Everybody's going to have to testify. None of this is privileged, right? Like this is not attorney-client communication. This is literally just a guy admitting to somebody else that they did a crime. That's not privilege. And there's no parent-child privilege. There's only spousal privilege. So this is just, again, there's no privilege involved here. So the mother and father will have to testify if they're put under subpoena, under oath. Lance Twiggs will have to testify under oath. He won't be able to claim the Fifth Amendment. That's the point of use immunity, because the whole point, the Fifth Amendment is saying you're not allowed to testify if you reasonably fear incriminating yourself as a result of your testimony. Well, if you're given immunity from what you say, then there is no such reasonable fear. So you must testify. So everybody's going to have to show up and raise their right hand and answer questions from the prosecution about what Tyler Robinson told them. And so all these confessions will come in, and the note, the text message, the Discord messages, like there's at least the speaking to his parents, speaking to the family friend, perhaps what he said at the police station. All of these confessions will come in. And normally, again, you don't have, we know of at least 4 confessions. There are probably more. And they will all come in. It's just how they come in is going to vary in different cases. Sometimes they will come in because you have the written document, and all you will need is somebody to testify to authenticate the document. That's in the case of the text messages and the Discord messages. And then sometimes he will have told somebody, in which case the person he told will have to testify under oath about what Robinson said.
Right. So this is where all of this comes in. And, I will say that, Tyler, here's one thing, just so people understand from my vantage point. I'm behind Tyler, so I cannot see if he's making facial expressions. The jury box right now, where a jury would be, is filled with media. Now, they do not have cameras, but they can see Tyler Robinson's face. They can see the way he's reacting to things. No, I don't see him, moving or anything that much. I can tell that, but I can't see his face. They said that he looked very uncomfortable as this video was being played.
I'm sure he did. That video was damning in any number of ways. It foreclosed a lot of different avenues that the defense might try and deal with a lot of the evidence that they're facing. And I mean, I've seen some people try, basically I've already seen people say the only way Lance Twiggs is a Fed somehow, that's the way they're getting out of this testimony, which is just preposterous. I'm sorry. And as you talk about, there's so many different independent corroborating details, and the number of people who would have to be lying under oath and fabricating evidence to make any sort of conspiracy possible here is just unfathomable. Unfathomable how many people would have to be lying and fabricated evidence. Unfathomable how difficult and absurd it would be for all these different documents to be fabricated and such. And also they would have had to have done so in such a massively short time frame. It's just absurd.
Well, and Will, also, let's be clear that the defense today was referring to them as the Tyler and Twiggs text messages, and the defense referred to them as Tyler's Discord messages. So Mr. Novak did that, and he only did it one time, but I caught it. So you now have Tyler's own defense team referring to these messages as his messages. They're not challenging whether or not he wrote them. They're just challenging whether or not they can be shown to the public.
Right. And I think, this is, again, revealing how unbelievably reckless it was for them not to waive the preliminary hearing. I think I saw somebody mention this, but they would have had all this evidence already. They knew it was coming. And they didn't waive the preliminary hearing. And now the public and the world is seeing all this stuff before trial. So, Yeah, I mean, and again, this is one of those things that they could not sustain any meaningful authenticity challenge to this stuff. It would make them look foolish. They would look foolish. They'd lose any credibility, whatever little credibility they have with the judge. You know, like the people on the internet can say whatever they want. Like people on the internet can make claims about Twiggs being a Fed, but none of that would stand sustained questioning under oath, right? That's I think what a lot of lay people don't understand about how courts work. When you're under oath and there's no time limit on questioning, you just can't really wriggle out unless the lawyer lets you. A competent examiner, a competent lawyer will just take a question that you maybe answer narrowly or answer as a dodge, and then use your dodge to inform them about how they need to reframe and reformulate their question so you cannot dodge it. And then if you refuse to answer, the judge will instruct you to answer. And if you don't, then you'll be in contempt and they'll toss you in jail if you're just some random person. Basically, like if you're a third party witness. So the truth will come out here. And the idea that, you know, and that's true of the defense too, right? The defense, if, you know, there were some massive conspiracy they could unveil, they would be thinking about how they could do it, but they won't be able to do it because it's not there. And if they tried to go down that route, they'd make themselves look foolish, and any witnesses they'd try and put up there to put forward this theory would be made to look unbelievably foolish.
Will Chamberlain, thank you for your ongoing yeoman's work on this. Where can people follow you?
At Will Chamberlain on X, and you can follow the Article 3 Project at a3paction.com.
Folks, today was a day that we have fought for a very long time. And for those of us who have wanted the truth to come out, it's here. It's finally here. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.